Hello everyone and welcome to this build guide slash discussion about my aura slash armor stacking champion using Doryani's Prototype. So for the first time in a while we're playing Trade League, so we're trying out some fun stuff. Uh, just something that I've been waiting to do for this video is gamble some apothecary cards. So this is going to be my last ditch effort to get the Mageblood this league. If this goes well, we'll have a Mageblood. If it goes bad, we will be broke. I'm currently level 99. I'm trying to reach 100 for the first time this league. And I'm also trying to do 40 out of 40 for the first time this league. So, gonna be fun. So, without further ado, let's get into deleting some apothecary cards. Alright, so first click. Let's see. Okay, -1. Oof. Okay, we're back to 2. Still at 2. We're at 3. Okay, so we made profit. I'm too nervous to continue right now. I'm out of life juice. I'll buy some more and then I'll stitch this together once I buy some more. Alright, so let's talk about the build. I think the essential place to start is talking about Doryani's Prototype, because this build leans heavily into the upside and it suffers from the downside of this armor. So first thing you should know is you deal no non-lightning damage, so you can't do any Trinity or anything like that. It's only pure lightning. The cool thing about this is we make the monsters in a close proximity of us to have the same lightning resistance as we do. The lower we can scale this, the more damage we will do, as it does not just reduce their resistance to 0, but it takes them into the negative, which makes them take more damage from our hits as well. So the one downside that we suffer from a lot on this build is we do not have lightning resistance mitigation against damage over time effects. This is stuff like Mana Siphoner, Shaper Beam. Sure, there's more I can't think of right now, but things that do lightning damage over time really wreck us. We are actually alright when it comes to taking lightning damage hits, since we're stacking as much armor as we can, and as you can see, this chest makes it so that our armor also applies to lightning damage taken from hits. So it's just the overtime portion that is the problem for us, and what basically is the only thing that leads us to dying while mapping. The essentials you need to get this build started is a replica Dream Feather, definitely for the armor stacking. You need Doryani's Prototype. I would say you need the Alpha's Howl. And the other essential thing we need for this build is actually a jewel. The Melding of Flesh. It's just very useful because it's minus a massive amount of elemental resistances, which jumpstarts our big damage. So you can definitely do this build on a budget. I started off by just buying myself a Doryani's Prototype unlinked. I bought myself a Alpha's Howl and I got a replica Dream Feather, just one to start with. Just quickly on the replica Dream Feather, you're really looking for something that has 10 increased attack speed, because that scales very well with our other sources of attack speed. The other stats are not as important. Obviously, the better you can get this roll, the better it will be for you. The other thing that I bought was a Thunder Fist. These gloves are very strong as they provide us with a cheap 5 link with a big added lightning damage support. The only difficulty you will have is to color them. The most important gems would obviously be Smite, because we're using Smite. Multi-Strike. I would do Inspiration just to make the mana cost easier, and then Elemental Focus is probably the next one, that or the elemental damage of attacks. The reason that you will probably have difficulty for fitting 4 red gems in this is because this is an armor, not an armor gloves, it's evasion and energy shield, so they'll be prone to roll green and blue sockets, but you can fix that using the sockets thing. So how this works is you try and get your gloves with, let's say, 2 red sockets to start with as the first 2 places, like these first 2. and you go 3 sockets. If you get a red, then good. If you don't, if you get a blue or a green, you start back to 2 sockets, 3 sockets, and you continue like that until you get a lucky roll. And then the 4 sockets, same, 3 and 4 until you get your gloves. That's a cheap way to get it, or this far into the league, you'll probably be able to just straight out buy the gloves with the correct socket colors for you. So it's very cheap to get started, but it has an extremely high ceiling. So the next important things you need is to start stacking auras. You need one of these, or a few of these actually, small cluster jewels with mana reservation efficiency of skills. You need to roll them with introspection. These you can on average buy if they're item level 83 or lower. You need above 71 for this to roll introspection. You can buy them for 20 chaos on average, and you can roll them by alt spamming, so they're not very expensive to make yourself. Buying them tends to be more expensive, but as you can see, you just need large cluster jewels, 8 passives. You can optimize this later with better stats for your build, and then just get introspection jewels as much as possible. This is the basic skill tree while we're at it. Since it is Trial of the Ancestors League, I made use of a bunch of tattoos. So most of the tattoos that I use is either increase armor or non-curse auras, which stacks our aura effects. The reason we want to stack aura so much is because we are using very high level alt qual, in this case determination. We're using grace, that's very high level, and wrath along with where is it, haste. And the better we get this aura scaled, the better it will be for our defenses, so our armor goes way up. The reason we do haste and we do grace and determination is because iron reflexes give us our evasion to armor, and the reason that grace is so important is it has that stat. It gives 32% more evasion. The more evasion actually makes it so that scaling evasion is more effective in stacking armor than just scaling flat armor. It's not a big deal. Don't get too hung up on the math. Just to note, if you do wonder why I'm not taking this cloth and chain, since it scales evasion and armor, this actually only benefits us once. So it's not like a double stat. It only gives us 24%. The only case where you double dip on scaling iron reflexes is cases where it gives you more. So an example of this would be Grace Aura, and I really should be using a Stibnite Flask, which gives us more evasion, and that would also help us scale our armor a little better. Obviously, high-end Mageblood would be the absolute best for this build. If you cannot afford it, Immortal Flesh is great. These ones with Corrupt for increased aura effect for determination and grace aren't very expensive. You could just grab one of these. Another reason for this belt is it has minus elemental resistances. It's not too difficult to scale our fire rays since aura effect scales our purity of fire, which gives us a lot of additional fire rays. You just have to get a lot of cold rays on your other gear to balance out the negative effects of the minus elemental rays we have from various sources. Another great item for this build is the Ventrix Gamble. These are actually not that difficult to get. You will sometimes see these listed for 20 to 50 divine, these similar to what I have. It is not that expensive to get if you look for very specific stats. If you look for reduced quantity, not reduced, correction. If you look for quantity 7% and up, that's enough. If you look for lower rarity, that's perfectly fine because rarity does not scale our loot as much as quantity does. And then these other two resistances, fire and cold, just get them as high as you can. Start maybe in the 30s for budget, and then scale up from there. And then look for 24 to 25 minus lightning rays, and then you can quality these up later. This is a very key part in the early of your build because it's cheap to get one that is functional, and obviously the lower you get your lightning rays, the better. This is not a guide, by the way, to give you the exact formula to copy my build because I'm doing the best build. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just telling you guys how easy it is to just get it started Obviously, I've invested a lot in this build, and it's not easy to do. You need some time and maybe some lucky currency drops to get into the high tiers. But to have a viable build that can do the end game is not a lot. So get back to this. Thread of Hope, another source of minus elemental res if you're looking for it. I did not keep this one in my build. The reason that I took it out is I went for more max res because I wanted to have 90 fire and cold res. That was very important to me. Just in case you're wondering why I have 90 cold rays as well, it's because our melding jewel gives us elemental rays is capped by your highest capped rays. And then we're scaling a lot of aura effect, which makes us purity of fire give us, I think it's something like 12 additional max fire rays. But don't quote me on that. That's just a rough estimation. So the Thread of Hope, I put it in here. I found that's the best place. If you put it in here, you can take the Lust of Carnage, and you can take the armor from Spike Bulwark. I ended up at the end not going for it because I wanted a Watcher's Eye jewel as well in the socket, and you really starve for jewel sockets until you get very high level. And the reason I wanted the Watcher's Eye is mostly for the phasing while hasted to make mapping go a bit smoother. These aren't very expensive either, so a better one of these would also have increased armor with determination and stuff like that. Good. In case you're wondering about this jewel, this is just a experiment I did because I had an open jewel socket to spec. So I just fixed some of my attributes so I can get more increased armors, and then I just wanted to see how flat armor and evasion scales. Would not necessarily say this is the best jewel to get. You don't need to do this at all. I was just wanting to play with it, and you can also get corrupting blood on these. You can pick some of your shock immunity on some of these jewels and all sorts of things that I have not been able to min-max yet. Um, Again, this is not to say that you need all of these items that I have, but Ashes of Stars for this build is extremely powerful as it gives us extra levels to our very powerful auras and also gives us the quality of skill gems, which is very important for the alt qual gems. So the alt qual gems, for example, this determination one gives us increase evasion, gives us evasion as extra armor. So we are increasing this with the Ashes of Stars, which makes it give us more evasion as extra armor, which obviously scales our armor. Um, and then our armor in this case is defense for against lightning damage taken from hits, and it's a lot of damage because of the replica Dream Feather. So I currently have 445k armor, removing determination there, and armor drops all the way down to 124. So it cannot be understated the value of the auras in this build and the power of stacking them. I unfortunately cannot show you the exact effect of the Ashes of Stars because that will break my character because I'm perfectly on the dex and int that I need to get my gems equipped. Good. So the next thing that is worth mentioning is Phantasmal Smite. This is a very good thing to have on an aura stacker because it grants you an aura which gives you attack speed, and then we're scaling the aura effect a lot with our character, as I've said multiple times, which scales the attack speed, which leads us to just have crazy attack speed. So let's look at path of building for a second. So this is the configuration I'm using. I'm always fortified. I just chose 20 rage. I can get up to 50 just to get a realistic DPS number. I chose the Guardian, and then I didn't choose any shock or anything like that. I could technically choose shock because my totem shock, and then I do have frenzy charges on. You will likely have frenzy charges on bosses since we have our mark on hit with Poacher's Mark. This gives us the ability to have a 12% chance to grant frenzy on hit. We're attacking extremely fast, As you can see, we attack 10 times a second, which gives us a very high rate of frenzy generation. And yeah, the rest is pretty straightforward. I'll link my path of building in the description of this video if you guys are interested to have a look at anything that I did. There's a lot of room for improvement here, so don't take this as a final build. This is just to show the kind of things that you're working with a, I would say about 120 divine that I've spent on this build now. It's really difficult to cover everything in one video without making it super long. But another last thing that I wanted to mention on the skill tree is the brutal restraint that I'm using as the timeless jewel. The reason for this is it gives us increased aura effect as well on multiple places. It helps us as well as gold res. This one is life, which is nice. That one is again aura effect. This one is again aura effect. And that one just gives us dex. So this is a very nice spot to put it, especially if you need the extra mana reservation efficiency there. And yeah, it's just generally very comfortable for the build, and again, as much aura effect as you can is great. Then something I will mention as a late game option, you can get a jewel that gives you the ability to allocate passives around Chaos Inoculation. You go for these right here, they give you aura effect and reservation efficiency. That jewel is called, let me show you, the Impossible Escape with Chaos Inoculation. Those are pretty expensive, so you don't need this to make it work at all. You can get a cheap one that allows you to allocate around this node that I can't pronounce, and then you can still get aura effect and reservation efficiency here. So just to show your pantheon, because a lot of people want to know about pantheons, I chose the reduced damage over time. Again, Mana Siphoner is the killer for us, so it helps us reduce it slightly. And I guess Chaos Res over time. There's not much more to it. It's just I wanted to not die as much, so I chose this one. This one I chose for the reduced effect of curses on us. That's to me the most important because I like to just roll my maps and run them without worrying too much about curses and stuff. That makes it slightly easier. One last thing. Non-vol skill strikes an additional nearby enemy. Try and get this on gloves if you can. It saves you 5 points of allocating this node here plus the mastery with nearby, with non-vol skills target additional nearby enemy. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you found this helpful, please consider to like and subscribe. And I will add on the end of it the outcome of our Mageblood gamble. See you in the next one. Alright, I got us some more juice. Let's see what we get. Very nervous. So twice or 0, yep. Okay, let's see. Oh my word. Oh my word, I have a Mageblood. What? There's no way. We're gonna do this now. This is the first time I've ever done this. Oh my word, I'm so happy. This is amazing. We need to divine it, but yes, we did it. Yeah, I'm speechless. I'm gonna end it here because I don't know what else to say.